Hi there, my name is Regina Franceschi. I am a senior here at Meredith, and this is my senior exhibition project titled Turn of the Century, an exploration of historical construction and designs from 1890 to 1910. I have three goals. In the next 10 minutes, I'm going to show you how design elements evolve, the inspiration and research that goes behind that, and demonstrate how clothing is the thread that holds together the human experience. We'll see kind of what has changed and what hasn't. And lastly, the fun bit, which is exploring historical garments and seeing the products of that exploration. And let me introduce you to the overall inspiration for this, which is this fitted T-suit jacket circa 1890. This is a 130-something year old garment that I am lucky enough to have been able to observe. And so I identified some distinct design features, those being very large pleated leg and button sleeves, a very fitted bodice, stand collar with a wide lapel, coat tails, slightly turned sleeves, the seam being slid forward to engineer a natural curve to the sleeves to bring them into a ballet-like arc. And some challenges that I faced were learning how to read a garment that had been modified after original construction, figuring out what was important, what was original and what wasn't, and what to include. And the last being finding a comparable material, because I had assumed that this piece was made out of silk, but as we discovered, it's actually made out of a finely woven wool, and recreating that would have been hard. So learning to keep the spirit of the garment rather than stress about going into for the exact same. This board serves as both inspiration and research. I was looking for common themes, both in terms of the garments themselves, how they changed over the century, as well as change of lifestyle. That was what I was keeping an eye out for. So we can see there is a change in style, which is reflected in the overall research. I identified two major themes that I want to point out. So leg of mutton sleeves, as we know them today, appeared first in 1824. They made a big resurgence in the 1890s, and then they appeared again in the 1960s and 80s. They are characterized as a very full sleeve up at the shoulder, tapering down to the elbow, and then very fitted at the wrist. They were thought of as a day sleeve. It wouldn't get in your way. And if you remember back in 2018, when the 80s came back, we saw a lot of puff sleeves and leg of mutton sleeves, and they're still quite popular today. And then sportswear. In the 19th century and the New Woman era, there was a proliferation of styles intended for specific activities, a lot of them happening outside of the home. So walking, visiting, a T-suit counts, and particularly the emergence of sportswear and a more active lifestyle as things became more urbanized and industrialized. Things like tennis and cycling became accessible to women, and there was this revolution of leisure and recreation that resulted in a new kind of fashion. This is the reconstruction project. The jacket is a reconstruction of the original garment, excluding things identified as being not original. It is constructed out of a cotton velveteen. The fabric was donated by Professor Emeritus Dr. Martha Burbett, and the fabric was originally curtains from her church, and it was in the perfect amount and in the perfect color that is consistent with colors popular during the time period based off of interior design, both paint and fabric materials. So it was a literal actual godsend. The skirt was created by observing illustrations and fashion plates from the time period. And so translating that into what are the needs and what format could it take. So it does have a bustle in the back, although this was not created with the underpinnings, corset, and a proper cage bustle or any of that attached. The second project was inspired by cycling sweaters, which are that blend of modernity and new needs. And so the challenge was to interpret construction from photographs and how to apply our needs, our need for modernity and beauty into an older style. And so that's what that project was about. And so here's what I learned. To choose function over aesthetic, treating it like an engineering process, figuring out the function resulted as by natural consequence, the looks and things that I was worried about not achieving happened naturally by building it the right way. The other consideration is that they problem solved back then too. There is a person on the other side of the sewing table from me, 100+ years apart, that was working with the garments and figuring out how to make them work best. And so the things that didn't make sense to me made sense when I considered the ingenuity and humanity of the previous creator. And the last takeaway is that the times have changed, our needs have not. And so while the woman wearing this suit may have lived totally differently from us, we can understand her better by observing and participating in her life through her garments. And we can do this with anyone throughout any time period by understanding the needs of others and the realities of their world and applying it to our own. We can understand them better, and we can be a part of the legacy of the past and help create a legacy for the future in tandem with our needs and our realities today. So here are my resources. And I want to give special thanks to Dr. Yang for being my faculty advisor and mentor through this process. Dr. Burbett for very generously donating the fabric for this. And of course, my parents for their infinite patience with me. And also, thank you. Thank you for your attention and for being here. Have a good day.